Okay, it looks like the video started. I wanted to do a quick review of this new Henry rifle I got. Got this for Christmas. It's my first Henry. It's the H001 model, which is a little 22 short, long rifle. I've got it locked up in my vise here because I'm getting ready to clean it. I went and shot it yesterday. Comes with sights, regular leaf type sights. You can see them there. One thing I do like about this sights is it comes with a set screw to keep them from moving once you get them sighted in. One thing I don't like is I've been trying to sight them in for about 3 trips, and every time I go and think I have it, I go back and they're a little different. Now part of that's me, because these aren't very precise sights. It's just a rear notch and then a front blade, which I will say I prefer the front blade to the bead sights. I have a bead sight on my Marlin. I'm thinking about replacing it, but it's not very precise. That's a pretty thick front blade too, but they will allow you to shoot out to 25, and with some more practice I think I could get 50 without a whole lot of trouble, 50 yards. But I wanted to show this and do this review because if you use these factory sights, I think you're probably missing out on some of the potential of this rifle. I'll show you why in a minute. This is a Simmons 22 mag 3-9 by 32 scope. I'll turn it this way so you can get the whole thing. It looks a little big for the rifle, but it works so well I'm not going to take it off unless I replace it with a better scope. So I'm kind of testing out the scope as well as the rifle. These are center point rings. I just picked these up at Academy for like $10. But they do have 4 screws per ring, tighten right on the factory dovetail. I talked to Henry about the torque to tighten onto this dovetail because this is I think a zinc alloy. It's not aluminum, it's not steel on the receiver cover here. And so I only torqued them down with the leverage of the short leg on the Allen screw for these. For anybody that doesn't know about this, it's a lever action. It's very smooth. It won't open all the way because it's on my bench, but it's very smooth. You have a little click at the end when it locks closed. Half cock position on the hammer, which it is now. These 2 screws come out and the whole receiver cover lifts off. The receiver's actually underneath here. So that's nice if you need any kind of work done on the receiver or some of the aftermarket sites. You can send this off and have them drill and tap the top of it for you, so you don't have to send it through an FFL transfer. You can just send the receiver cover and you're done. Looking at the walnut, this is very nice. It's not shiny like a Browning would be, but I like it. It's a matte finish, very nicely done. No dings or anything on it yet. You see I got it locked in my vise with some wooden blocks. And yes, my garage is very messy. I'm in the middle of about 4 projects, one of which is finishing a couple of knives, cleaning guns, and cleaning out my car for work. So there's a bunch of stuff in here that's going to go away. But since I just shot this yesterday, I wanted to go ahead and do this while I could. So the reason I put the scope on there and intend to leave it on there or upgrade it, I'd like to find one that's a little shorter. The primary arms ACSS 22 reticle fixed 6-power is more compact, but I'm not sure that I want a fixed 6-power scope on a rifle like this. So I may try one. I may try it anyway just to see if I like it. But it's a pretty nice scope. Seems to be clear, holds 0. This scope has been dropped once on another rifle, so one of the things I'm doing is testing the accuracy of this rifle and testing how this scope holds 0. Just to eliminate this possibility that it's an assembly issue. When I clean this rifle, I just open the bolt and run a bore snake through it. And that's all Henry says to do. You don't have to take the stock off every time and clean it. Eventually I will, but one of the things I like about it, compared to my semi-automatic Marlins, It's very clean inside. It almost looks factory new inside the action. And I may show that here in a minute, but the factory action is still, or the action is still almost factory clean. Let me see if I can lift it up a little bit and open the bolt all the way. Hold on just a second. And that will do. Yeah, it's still very clean inside there. It's getting a little dirty. I shot a lot of Aguila yesterday. Right now it's sighted in with the Aguila high velocity. They're 1,255 feet per second load, copper washed. So that stuff seems to be pretty accurate. Everything you're going to see today on targets was shot with that. And I intended to use the standard velocity, which is about 1,130 feet per second, but I left it at home, so I had to go with what I had. So I brought two boxes of the high velocity, and that's what I ended up using. And no failures to eject, no failures to feed, fired every shot. Although the very first round of that high velocity out of my Marlin was a dud. Primer strike, primer dent, didn't fire. So that's not happened with this rifle. Tried some 22 CCI quiets, and they cycled fine, but they would not group as accurately as I'd hoped. So when I emailed Henry, I asked him about that. I also tried some Aguila Super Calibri, which is for rifles. The regular Calibri, I think, is for pistols. So it's not a certainty that it'll have enough velocity to make it out of a barrel on a rifle. They were not accurate and had trouble cycling. And it might be that oddly shaped cone bullet is not for them, or not for this rifle. So I'll see what Henry has to say in the next day or two. They usually are pretty good about emailing you back. But let's talk about the targets here. And you'll see I've got some cleaning supplies and stuff like that. So this is a bullseye target. I like these a lot. They're nice to use with iron sights. I can set them up at 50 or even 100 yards. And in fact, that's what I did. You can see I've got Marlins here with tech sights on it. That'll be a review for later. But I can set those tech sights up to where the front sight post sits right here and hit the bullseye at 50 yards, which I can't see that bullseye at 50 yards. It just all looks black to me. So I can't really focus in on that because I can't see it at all. So that's why I do it that way. But here you see some sighting in shots for the Henry when I put this scope on here at first. And these two, I was aiming for the 8. So you see it was just a little high and had to come over just a ½ inch. Well, I overcorrected, so then I had to move it back and get it and then bring it down. Well, then I started aiming for the 7, which that one was really close. Then the 6, this is all aiming for the 6. So I was fighting that scope a little bit. That's one of the things I'm checking out on it. I had trouble with it even before I dropped it, but more so after I dropped it. Kind of wandering a little bit on another rifle. So if it holds 0, it'll stay here. If not, I'll probably replace it. I may replace it with a smaller scope anyway. So I've got group sizes here. So even though I was aiming here, that's a really good group for 50 yards. ½ inch, 3/8, 3/4, 3/4. That's only 2 shots, but it's 5/16. And then I found out I like to use cards for targets if I have a scope, because I can see them. They don't take up room. I can put several of them up and use different guns for each one and not have to run down range as often to put new targets up. So that's a 6-round group, 50 yards, 7/8 of an inch. So that's pretty good. These two here, I was aiming for that diamond, so it was a little high. And then here I was aiming for this diamond. It's a little low, so I overcorrected. So I'll have to tinker with the scope a little more and fine tune it as I shoot it. But that's a really good group for 50 yards for a 22, I think, particularly a lever action. I searched and searched YouTube looking for accuracy reviews for these rifles before I bought them. I handled one at an academy near my house and liked it because it was so light and handy. Then started looking up reviews on it. The salesman at the academy spoke very highly of them. I'd not shot any Henrys, and he said they're very accurate. So I thought, well, I'll give it a shot. I wanted something that would cycle. I was looking for something that would cycle quiet rounds. It looks like this one might not be accurate with those. I'll see what happens. It might have been just a bad box, or it might have been me. So we'll see what happens. So this is another card. That was a 4-shot group. That's the biggest one I have with that ammo yesterday. It's an 1 1/8 at 50 yards, but that was by far the biggest group. Most of them were more like this. I was aiming for the 2, so just a little bit of variation there. But 7/8 of an inch at 50 yards. So I was going to wait until I stretched it out to 100, but I have another rifle that I want to use for longer range stuff with 22, so I'll probably not sight this one in for any further than that. I will say I did shoot it last weekend with the Aguila standard velocity, their 1130 foot per second load at 25 yards, so it's not a really fair comparison, but those groups were all the same hole. 15 shots, a full magazine for a long rifle, which is 15 rounds for this gun. 15 rounds went in a nickel-sized group at 25 yards. 3 shots went in one hole at 25 yards. It was really impressive compared to what I was expecting. You're not expecting a match grade rifle or super accuracy out of a lever action, but you want adequate accuracy. This is beyond what I was expecting, so I'm very happy with that. So later on, I'll do a review on the Marlin. I really like those tech sights. I was able to, this is all at 50 yards, I was able to get a 1-inch group at 100 with the tech sights, a 3-shot group. This is you can see this is a 35 round group. So I put 2 full tubes through 2 full magazines, because it's an old one, it's an 18 round magazine. 2 full magazines through it, and they all went in 2 1/4, 2.5 inches, something like that. Some of these are sight in. These were my first 3 shots. These 2 went the same hole. That one was a little high, and I kind of adjusted the way I was looking at the sights rather than adjust the sights. These are a little higher velocity, so I expected them to hit higher. I had it sighted in with the lower velocity. But anyway, first 3 shots with iron sights went in a 3/4 inch group at 50 yards, so I was pretty happy with that. The rest of this is just me wandering around. Some of these up here are just me trying out different holds, seeing what I could get away with. Same thing over here. I think a couple of these might be me aiming for that 8, where I overcorrected, came down too low, and then had to go back up. So controls on that scope are not as certain as I would like. So I'll deal with that later. So that's all I wanted to do, since I had such trouble finding accuracy results for these H001 Henrys. I thought I'd post one here and let everybody know that if this is typical, you can expect very good accuracy out of these rifles, particularly if you put a scope on them, or if you have better eyesight and can use the iron sights better than I do.